Good morning, good morning, good morning. There we go. So nice and vibrant and live. Welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Dr. J. Exodus Hooper. It is wonderful to see you. My pronouns are they and them. I am an average height, brown skin, I like to say travel size more so to get me moving, but I am brown skin, got on gold today, gold top with some red harem pants, and yeah, just feeling a really, really bright day as we talk about this wonderful topic today. I want to also just remind some of our friends, after service, 12:15, there will be social justice meetings for anyone interested in the library, okay? So make sure we are in the library. We will have check-ins for reproductive rights. We will have LGBTQIA justice work, defending democracy team, and the environmental justice. So you can just meet us in the library. That would be great. Reminder is that next Sunday at 5 p.m. is our fall equinox. So that will be happening. That's right, you should get excited, okay? Look, we get to fall back in time. We get to get some rest. No, let me stop. But we will be over at 695 Springfield. A potluck will follow the 30-minute service, which will be outdoors. And all are welcome. The theme is, it's a harvest-themed gathering. So please gather yourself and bring your full self and all the things that you are. I'm really grateful to have you here. And I will turn this portion over.
Thank you, Sarah and Kathy, for leading us in song while we await Misa's return. I wonder if I have someone, let me introduce myself. Not all of you know. I'm Reverend Robin. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of the lead ministry team here. I've got a lot of bling and a lot of blue on. I'm an average height white woman, nearly middle of life, with short brown hair. I know that always, some folks are, whoa, middle of life, but I am. And I would love to have a volunteer this day to kindle the light of our chalice. Does anyone want to come forward? Yeah, come on up. There you the first spark, the flame of ancient ones who also knew that drawing to the fire was danger and survival, risk and life herself. Here is the flame now rising as we do with each draw of oxygen. Would you draw in some oxygen with me this day? A deep breath in. Here is the light that also brings shadow. Come round this flame, open to its invitation to be both light and shadow, to open mind, heart, and spirit, to spark the ancient flame within each.
I want to share a reading with you by Lucille Clifton entitled, "Won't You Celebrate with Me?" Won't you celebrate with me? What I have shaped into a kind of life. I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay. My one hand holding tight and the other, come celebrate with me. That every day that something has tried to kill me and has failed.
Good morning again. My name is Kathy Menendez, she, hers, and I'm a shorter, older white woman with blonde hair wearing yellow and black and a burgundy scarf, which indicates I'm a member of the chaplain team here at Beacon. Chaplains extend the spiritual care of our community. We define spiritual care as intentional compassion through presence and listening. And of course, we keep all conversations confidential. Come to talk to me or one of the members of the lead ministry team. Chaplains also facilitate our weekly ritual of community candle lighting. And together we light candles of joy, sorrow, and gratitude. This morning, we light a candle of joy and celebration for Ellie and Bob Muska's daughter, Michelle, who got married just yesterday. Another candle of joy for Mia Morse and Marty Rothfelder on their recent wedding. We light a candle in honor of September being Suicide Prevention Month. We acknowledge the loss and heartbreak of family members and friends who have lost someone to suicide. And we remind everyone that the Suicide Crisis Hotline number is 988 and staffed 24 hours a day with professionals who can help someone struggling with mental health. We light a candle to hold our own Jermaine Kripe in comfort as she grieves the loss of her mother on September 10th. We light a candle of sympathy for Kate Smith Cooper and her family as they mourn the loss of Kate's mom, Angela. A candle of support and sorrow for the family of David Miller, longtime Beacon member, who passed away early Saturday morning, just after midnight. We extend our love to his wife, Julia, 2 sons and daughter, as well as the circle of friends and family who are mourning his passing. And finally, a candle to honor Hispanic Heritage Month. The 2024 theme is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together, which seeks to recognize the trailblazers who have paved the way for all of us who have followed. For this and for so much more, we invite you now to come forward and light a candle for your own intentions, here in our sanctuary, at home, or wherever you may be.
Hey, Sue. Of course. Sorry. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Hi. Hi, Elaine. Can I give you a hug? Good to see you. Yeah. Can I give you a hug? Good to see you. It's good to see you. Of course. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Reverend Jay. Mom, she's coming to pick you up.
Okay, she said Debbie and Laura was going to pick us up.
Oh, okay. Then maybe that's what's happening. of wisdom comes not in the form of a reading, but in the form of a video by the sage and sojourner and actor, Bill Murray. So in this clip, which you will see in a moment, Bill Murray has been asked how his acting career unfolded, and if there was a particular moment in his life that was a turning point or something that he returns to again and again. And he takes the question that really is focusing on his acting career, and he really talks about a pivotal moment in his life for which there was a before and a distinct after.
It would be back when I started acting in Chicago. I wasn't very good, and I remember my first experience on the stage. I was so bad I just walked out on the street and started walking. And I walked for a couple of hours, and I realized I'd walked the wrong direction. Not just the wrong direction in terms of where I live, but the wrong direction in terms of a desire to stay alive. And so this may be a little bit not completely true, but it's pretty true that I walked. I then thought, well, if I'm going to die where I am, I may as well just go over towards the lake, and maybe I'll float for a while after I'm dead. So I walked over towards the lake, and as I got there, I realized I'd hit Michigan Avenue, and I thought, well, Michigan Avenue, that runs north too, and so I started walking north, and I ended up in front of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I just walked inside, and I didn't feel like I had any place being there, and they used to ask you for a donation, you know, when you walk into a museum, and I just walked right through because I was ready to die, and pretty much dead, and I walked in, and there's a painting there, and I don't even know who painted it, but I think it's called the Song of the Lark, and it's a woman working in a field, and there's a sunrise behind her, and I've always loved this painting, and I saw it that day, and I just thought, well, look, there's a girl who doesn't have a whole lot of prospects, but the sun's coming up anyway, and she's got another chance at it. So I think that gave me some sort of feeling that I too am a person and get another chance every day the sun comes up. It would be back.
I want to open up with this reading just before our meditation. It says the following: The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tugs at your ankle, "Mend my life," each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundation through their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stone, but little by little, as you left their voice behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strolled deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do. Determined to save. Determined to save the only life you could save. I want to offer us a brief meditation. Find yourself in a posture that feels most suitable. regarding our theme of invitation. I want to invite us to ourselves. I want to invite us for a moment to engage ourselves. Let us take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. I invite you into the possibilities of wonder. I invite you to welcome yourself. And sometimes the thing that feels foolish, sometimes the things that you feel most successful at. I invite you to be full, to be a cup that overflows, to drink of yourself, to share in the wealth of your humanity and the fulfillment that you are. And I invite you to take a journey that all is not lost, that you can spin a wheel like a wheel of fortune. Spin because you are fortunate. Dance like the fool and start all over because your cup is full and you lack nothing. You are your greatest invitation. Take a breath. You are your greatest invitation. Take another breath. You are your greatest invitation. Say that with me. I am my greatest invitation. I am my greatest invitation. One more time. I am my greatest invitation.
Good morning. My name is Wim Sweldens. I am a tall, somewhat slender, older white male. I have short, graying and receding hair, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt and blue jeans. As I was reflecting for this testimonial, I realized that later this year in December, it will have been 20 years since I joined Beacon. At the time, my wife Kirsten and myself, who both grew up Catholic and were married in a Catholic church, might have been the last time we went, were looking for a spiritual home for our children who were 5 and 7 at the time. And we both sort of independently found UU. I heard about it from a colleague who described this church without a belief, and I'm like, this is like too good to be true. And my wife learned about it online, and sure enough, someday in December 2004, we walked through those doors. And believe it or not, it was the hanging of the greens service. Those of you who've been to some of them realize that it's sort of complete chaos. And we joined, and the four of us said, like, this is a little different. And we loved it. And we kept coming back and soon became members. And for the next 10 years, life was good. Our social circles were growing. Our community at Beacon was growing. Our kids were growing up and becoming part of the RE program. I became a teacher in the RE program. I became a part of the RE committee and even RE chair 1 year, and life was good. It was almost so good we didn't know it was good. But then, at some point, during the course of a little bit more than a year, my life fell apart. At first, my only sister passed away completely unexpectedly and left a big hole in my heart, and I miss her still every day. The nice executive job that I'd gotten disappeared at some point with corporate mergers and different big company dynamics. And I started a company which, like any starting company, was a fledgling company. And one day, I was riding my bike, and I had a very bad bike accident. I don't remember much about it, except that apparently after 5 hours in a coma, I woke up in the emergency room, and the doctor had told my wife that he gave me about a 50-50 chance of waking up. I had a triple skull fracture and a hematoma, but I woke up. And what I discovered, a little bit to my surprise, is that going to a near-death experience will put stress on any relationship. For many couples, it probably brings them even closer together. But for us, it somehow ended up doing the opposite, and we ended up having to go our own way. And so I found myself walking around sort of like Bill Murray. And I truly felt that I was going to die. But the one part of my life that didn't fall apart was Beacon. And even though it wasn't called Beacon at that time just yet, it still became my beacon. I remember Tuli was there in the emergency room. She was there to take me home from the hospital. She realized that my house wasn't my home anymore and arranged for a new home for me temporarily with the Jackson family, another longtime Beacon family. And I was able, with Tuli's help, to start my new life. Tuli convinced me that divorce is not a leading cause of death, which I truly thought it was. And I learned to live on my own, and I started my physical and mental recovery. And I figured if I need to recover physically and mentally, the point is not to get back to where I was before everything fell apart. It was an opportunity to become physically and mentally even stronger. So I learned to walk again with the help of a cane. And I joined a running club, which was our Beacon Running Club, which is still a big part of my life every week, a good set of friends. And then after about a year, with the help of a hypnotist, I learned to bike again. And I never stopped again. As you know, I ride my bike almost every day. And Tuli told me at the time, she's like, this is your turn to take. You have been giving, this is your time to take. But then after a while, I got the opportunity to give again and become a different part of this community. I became a worship associate and an occasional, maybe once a year, aspiring amateur minister. And I became active in the volunteering, which was incredibly helpful for me. Particularly spent a lot of time at Summit Warm Hearts, which some of you might believe is called Summit Warm Hearts because it's a warming shelter for the unhoused in the area, and it probably is. But I like to think of the reason why it's called Warm Hearts for a different reason. Because as part of volunteering from Warm Hearts, I got to know Stacy. And she called me one day. She's like, "You're going to be volunteering at Warm Hearts." And I'm like, okay. That was a good start. And during COVID, we spent a lot of time here at Beacon. And just like Joelle and Tom mentioned last week, we spent some nights together here at Beacon. Not necessarily the most romantic ones, but we got to know each other, and we fell in love, and we became life partners. And I couldn't be more grateful for it. So I'm very happy to be here today. I am so grateful to be part of this community, and I cannot wait for the next chapter in this. Thank you. Our offering will now be gratefully given and received.
The context of our life matters. It influences how we receive one another, how we interpret the events that occur to us, even a simple interpretation of a painting. This one, by Jules Breton, toward the end of the 1800s, entitled, as Bill Murray shared, Song of the Lark. Now, for Bill Murray, this painting was sort of a symbol of hope, a call, an invitation to live, a continuation of flair, a hope, a signal. For me, when I see this painting, as much as I like it, I don't have Bill Murray's reaction to it. And that is because at 7 years old, my family moved to a peninsula on a lake in upstate New York. I grew up by the water, pacing my life by the seasons of the water, the wildlife on that lake, and also hearing this old adage that maybe some of you know was a constant and steady repetition that my grandfather, who would go fishing, would always say to me: "Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning." So for me, growing up, I loved to go out on the fishing boat at night. There was something exhilarating about it as a young child, and my grandfather would take me out and make a bed in the hull of that boat, and inevitably I would fall asleep to the rocking of the waves with this blanket of stars above me. And so I would look each day for what that sunset would foretell, and if it was a red sky at night, it meant for sure we were going out in the boat for this special experience. But on the mornings like this one in Song of the Lark, where a red sky was seen, it meant that there would be no time out on the water. My grandfather would not allow us to go out. The context of our life matters, how we receive a piece of artwork, words of a beloved, an invitation. I don't remember if it was a red sky the morning that I decided to, in the words of Mary Oliver, save the only life I could, but it should have been a red sky. I was a teenager in high school, and my steady guidepost, my grandmother, who had created and carved out so much safety for me and my family of origin, had died. And it plunged my life and the lives of my parents into a kind of chaos as their mental health struggles spun completely out of control without her presence. And I knew growing up that the only way out for me, the only door, was education. That was my way to safety. And I worked very hard at school. But as that chaos started to grow and grow in my family of origin, I realized that my grades were starting to slip. I was missing days of school. I was trying to take care of everything at home as a teenager. And I got to a point where I realized that that doorway into a life better than the one I was living in, that doorway to safety, to security, to a future, frankly, was closing. And I had a decision before me. I remember that night before I left trying to figure out what to do, if there was any way to stay and to keep taking care of my parents and taking care of the house and managing everything. But I concluded, just as Mary Oliver does, that I could only save my own life. The next morning was a work day for me because it was summertime, and in summer I worked a full-time job during the week. And so I went off to work as if it was any other day, and so did my parents. And I knew there would be a small window when the house would be empty. And that was when I returned to that house on the lake with my best friend and grabbed the bags that I had packed and hidden and put them in the car, and we sped off, winding down that lake road as fast as we could. What would follow would certainly be many storms and days where the sun rose red. But also, in that threshold moment from which I would look back and see there was a distinct before and a distinct after. From that moment, I would also find incredible mentors, companions, teachers, guides along the way, without whom I wouldn't be here this day. Sometimes they were unlikely people. So I went to a small Catholic school, and I tried very hard to hide that I was no longer living at home. I lived in fear of being discovered, because if I got kicked out, it would mean a whole set of adjustments, and it would make it harder to get to some of the scholarships that I was hoping would help me go to college. And so when the school principal, a 70-something Catholic priest, not known for his compassionate, loving presence, called me into his office, I was filled with fear. I thought for sure I had been found out and I was about to be kicked out. I don't remember what he said as I sat in that office because my ears were ringing. Have you ever had that experience where you're so anxious you can't take, it's like the adults in the Charlie Brown cartoons, right? He was just like, wah, 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 and I couldn't comprehend the words. But what I did notice was a really thick stack of excuse notes, passes, pre-signed, with everything else blank. And I kept looking at them on his desk. You know, that was like gold, right? In high school, like if you could get those passes that didn't have a date and were already signed by the principal. And here was like this, you know, like massive wealth of treasure just sitting there. And I found myself staring at it. And finally he said, "So do you understand?" And I said, "What?" He said, "I trust you. I trust you not to abuse these passes. I want you to use them when you have to go to the doctor or a therapy appointment or if you have to go to work. And I trust you not to abuse them. And that trust made all the difference in my survival. Because he trusted me, I didn't abuse his trust. Because he trusted me, I graduated senior year as valedictorian. Because he trusted me, I got the help that I needed. Because he trusted me, not only did I survive, but I thrived. So mentors came in very unexpected forms. I stand before you as a Unitarian Universalist minister because of a 70-something, slightly grumpy Catholic priest came through my life. And I fashioned between starshine and clay, to quote the poet Lucille Clifton, some kind of life with no real knowing how when I left that home down that dusty lake road as a young teen. Now, I used to think that these kind of threshold moments, these stories, were something that made ministers and leaders only, that we were special and had a call, a moment in our lives from which there was a before and an after, where an invitation to live, not just the biological realities of living, you see, not just breathing and taking in food and water and waking, but to really live with purpose and clarity. I thought that that was special. And it is, but it's not unique. The more that I minister, the more that I companion beloveds throughout their lives, the more I find everyone, nearly everyone, has such an invitation. Nearly everyone has such an invitation, a moment in your life where there is a before and an after. Now, it might not be as dramatic as Lucille Clifton's. It might not be as profound and crisp as Mary Oliver captures, or as frenzied and fast as mine was. But I bet you everyone here in this room and joining us online, whoever's hearing my words, I would surmise you could think of a threshold moment in your life. Amen? A moment from which, when you look back like Bill Murray, standing before that painting, there was a before and there was an after. Now, I want to invite us in this theme of invitation, if you will, to look at our lives as a sacred text. To read our lives as some would read the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Pali Canon, to source our lives for what the invitation before us is. Perhaps if we treated our lives as sacred and as important a text, we might see in the words of Adrienne Rich that change is not a threat to your life, but an invitation to live. An invitation to live with the kind of fire that we kindled our chalice with this morning. An invitation to live with the ferocity of the poet, or the quiet, careful awareness of the young woman in this painting who pauses at the beginning of a hard day's work, toil and labor, barefoot, even without shoes, in the fields. The sun is rising and oh my, it's red. The storms are coming, and yet she pauses to listen to the song of the lark, the bird, to believe that her life might be important enough for a bird to sing into being. There is always a threshold, a liminal space, a decision or an event from which there is a before and an after. A threshold in this bridge between starshine and clay. I want to, in this month of suicide prevention awareness, as Bill Murray talked about being at the very edge of being able to continue to live, to say to you, whoever might be at that threshold listening to my words this day, I want to tell you, just like the young woman in this painting, at dawn, pausing to listen to the song of the lark, that there is an invitation for you to live, to cast shadow and light in this life, to dance and to toil, to create, to fashion a love that lingers long after you are gone. And it can be impossible in the before to see all that can come in the after, but I'm here as a witness this day. I'm here as a witness for life. If you read your life as a sacred text, if you opened yourself, your mind, your heart, your whole being to the invitation that is your invitation, worry not about the source of that invitation. It could be the sacred. It might be, as Lucille Clifton says, you need to make it up out of nothing. The source of that invitation might be many ancestors before whose dreams and hopes are realized in you, or it might be the collective evolution of all of us leaning and pushing you toward your greatest potentiality. Whatever the source, what are the words of that invitation? That invitation to live. What is written upon your heart, your mind, your life? And are you? Are you living fully? Are you living fully into the after? Are you living fully into that invitation? Could it be you, beloved, are as fortunate and blessed and challenged and burdened as that young woman pausing to listen to the song of a lark? Now, there's a controversy about this painting. Well, there's probably more than one, but there's one I want to tell you about. So, Bill Murray interprets it one way. It's sunrise. But how many of you thought, when you saw this, that it might be sunset? Artists and art historians go back and forth. It seems like they've agreed that the artist meant sunrise, but I take their opinion and I'm going to leave it aside because I think it might be both. I think the ambiguity might be intentional. Because maybe the invitation to live doesn't just come at the beginning of our lives when we are first being formed. Maybe that invitation comes again and again. Maybe the invitation to hear the song of the lark can also come at the sunset of your life, when many years have passed and the hard labor of a life well lived is nearly done, and you're at the end of the day and you've kicked off your shoes and you're about to put down your tools and you hear a song that you have never heard before. Maybe at the end of your life too, the invitation returns. And maybe this time you can understand the language it is spoken in a way that you couldn't decades before. Maybe, as Bill Murray suggests, every day that we are given with air in our bodies, we are given the invitation to live. Maybe every morning we wake up and open our eyes and take in that first conscious breath. We are given the invitation. I want to close with one more poem in this Sunday of poetry. This one by Donna Faulds. It's entitled White Dove, and I invite you, if you will, to take this in almost like a prayer. In the shared quiet, an invitation arises like a white dove lifting from a limb and taking flight. Come and live in truth. Take your place in the flow of grace. Draw aside the veil you thought would always separate your heart from love. All you ever longed for is before you in this moment. If you dare draw in a breath and whisper, yes, 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 yes. Beloved, would you take hands with one another for our closing blessing this day? And now may the source of love that is our ultimate return, may it fill you and guide you. May it come into your being to overflowing, to be a gift that you give freely to all whom you meet, until we meet again. Blessed be, and amen. Oop, thank you. No, it's okay. Hey, Rodney, it's so good to see you. Oops. Here, let's stand on the same side. That way we don't make people choose.